three groups of people who hate democracy, just generally, anywhere in the world, hate democracy. And it appears to me that they are using this new, let's call it a secular religion or even a pseudo-religion of QAnon as one of the ways, one of multiple ways, to accomplish their goal of kneecapping democracy in the United States. Because if you can take down democracy in the United States, you can take it down anywhere in the world. This is, you know, I wrote about this morning on HartmannReport.com. The headline is, "Could QAnon's reign mean the end times for democracy?" And these three groups that I'm seeing, well, actually, let me back up a little bit. Voltaire famously said, "Those who can make you believe absurdities can also, you know, cause you to commit atrocities." I'm paraphrasing from memory, but you know, essentially, and he was talking about religion, specifically about religion. In fact, you know, I've got the whole rest of his quote, you know, buried here in my article. Here he says, "If the God-given understanding of your mind did not resist a demand to believe what is impossible, then you will not resist a demand to do wrong to that God-given sense of justice in your heart. As soon as one faculty of your soul has been dominated, other faculties will follow as well. And from this derives all those crimes of religion which have overrun the world." And I mean, this is scary stuff, right? With the QAnon stuff, you've got on CNN, the former president of the Southern Baptist Convention was talking with you know, one of the CNN personalities, and said that that one of the major struggles that religious leaders are having in the United States right now is trying to pull their congregants back from QAnon. You know, the headline in the New York Times, "QAnon now as popular in U.S. as some major religions." There was a PRRI poll that found 1/6 of Americans agree with the statement that the government, the media, and the financial world in the U.S. are controlled by a group of Satan-worshiping pedophiles, right? The Democrats drinking children's blood, all this kind of stuff. 1/6 of Americans believe this. Now, virtually 100% of that 1/6 are Republicans. And Republicans represent about 1/4 of Americans, which means that more than half of Republicans must believe this, if I'm doing the math in my head right. So the three groups that I'm seeing that are promoting or at least fine with this QAnon thing, and please notice, to the best of my knowledge, no Republicans have come out and just said, "Hey, this stuff is craziness." But the three groups, I refer to them as the philosophers, the thieving scoundrels, and the foreign enemies. The philosophers are basically the libertarians, and there's a bunch of right-wing billionaires, and they fund a bunch of organizations that promote, you know, stuff like, you know, they're going after, for example, H.R. 1. You can't have democracy in America. Are you kidding? What? Have the federal government guarantee democracy? No, no. The individual states have to be able to choose their voters. So you've got these, you know, the philosopher kings, the billionaires, the people who, you know, they kind of echo the sentiment of some of the founders, actually, that, you know, you just can't trust the rabble, was a phrase, John Adams' phrase, the rabble. Too much democracy is a bad thing. They refer to, in fact, libertarians and objectivists, you ask them, what is democracy? They'll tell you it's mob rule. Can't trust it. So you got that group. Then you got the thieving scoundrels, right? Basically these giant corporations across America that are just sick and tired of being regulated and taxed. They want to be able to dump all the poison into the air and the water that they want. They don't want to have to make sure that your food is safe. They don't want to have to make sure that toys aren't going to choke kids. They, you know, on and on it goes, right? And they certainly don't want to pay any taxes. And many of them don't, because they bought so many legislators. So you've got the thieving scoundrels, and they're in with, you know, they're fine with QAnon. And then you've got foreign governments that are not democratic, that are autocratic or even outright fascistic or outright, I'm not sure exactly what you would call the government of China. You know, they call themselves communists, but and not to specifically pick on them, because apparently they were held back from inserting themselves into the 2020 election. But Russia was in there, according to our intelligence agencies, and also in 2016, and probably several other countries as well. So you've got foreign autocrats, basically, who don't like democracy, and they're doing what they can to bring it down. And one of the tools that they're using to bring it down is QAnon. And this is like dangerous stuff. I mean, here we have three groups of people. And like I said, you know, if you can think of others, let me know. But here we have three groups of people who explicitly have an interest in not having democracy. I suppose I could add to that a fourth group, which is now the Republican Party, institutionally. You have new voting restrictions that have been passed now in 12 states, making it harder to vote, dialing back on democracy. In Arizona, in Florida, in Georgia, in Iowa, I mean, you know, in Michigan, in New Hampshire, Texas. Well, Texas, they didn't they have passed some smaller laws, but the big one where, hey, the election judges can just decide to throw out ballots from communities that they think are filled with fraud. We don't have to count those ballots. Are you kidding? So here we have these groups, and we have this religion, this QAnon religion, and I don't have an easy solution for this. I mean, have you ever tried to talk somebody out of a religion? There was you know, when I was a teenager, I had a few years in my life where I was just anti-religion, and I would try to talk people out of being religious. And it was like, oh, it's a really difficult thing to do. Have you had any success in talking anybody out of QAnon? I mean, this is tearing families apart. But here we have the Republican Party, along with these groups, the so-called philosophers, the people who think that democracy was just never a good idea, never should have tried it. And the thieves and the foreign enemies of democracy, basically, you know, the foreign autocrats. Democracy is a relatively fragile thing. I mean, democracy is the norm in indigenous and aboriginal societies. It's been the norm by which human society has organized itself for 100,000 years at least. And you see it in aboriginal and indigenous societies all over the world. But post-agricultural revolution, the last 10,000 years, it has only appeared 3 times. 3,000 years ago in Greece, 2,000 years ago in Rome, and now 240 years ago here in North America, and it's now spread to about 1/5 of the planet. About half the countries, half the planet's countries call themselves democratic, small d democratic, democracies. But it only lasted a couple of generations in Greece. It only lasted a couple of generations in Rome. I'm frankly very concerned about this, and I'm concerned that what we're seeing now is these 3 different groups starting to pull together to take down democracy in the United States. And the only solution that I have is to wake people the hell up and say, you know, if we want democracy, we're going to have to fight for it. And now we find ourselves fighting against one of our own political parties for democracy, for God's sake.